Well, welcome to the March 12th, 2024 session of Tangerine and Hamside Technical Session. My name is Dave, KB0S, and this week I've been working on actually testing lots of little things on my system to make sure it's robust. And so that's a big part. And then I started working on a how-to wiki for the under the name ClementineSDR. So that's coming, but it's not quite ready for prime time. But it'll help newcomers figure out how to set one of these radios up. I've shared it with a few people, but I'm still working on it. Anyway, that's it for me. Next on the list, we have Nathaniel, W2NAF. Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Thanks, Dave. I've been working on details for the Hamside workshop. So I'm going through, we have the agenda all posted with the abstracts all posted. I'm going through trying to collect all the posters that need to be printed. So I'm working on that. Our committee is meeting tomorrow to go through some more of those details. So I'm just continuing to work on that this week and try to keep all the different projects going. I think, later if Rob Robinette and Phil Karn come on, I might have some questions for them about the agenda, but I don't think anyone else on this call is really a presenter. So, but if anyone has any questions about it, let me know. Back to net.
Very good. And next on the list is Michael, AAAK. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, thank you, Dave. Greetings to everyone listening. The Whisper sound is churning away. I'm impressed on how robust the transmitters are in working into the different antennas and ones that were never intended to work on that frequency. Back to you, Dave.
Very good. Well, we all learn something new each time we try something. So next on the list is Jim, K4BSE. Go ahead, Jim.
Good evening. I haven't had a lot of time for ham radio recently. What I have is been split mostly by working on the paper that I'm supposed to present to our ham club here on the ham side. That's not until May, but I figured I better get to work on it. Having a lot of fun digging a little bit deeper into things that I've just kind of glossed over before to try to hit off any questions that I might get asked and try not to appear overly dumb. And still working some on trying to get a Raspberry Pi network addressed storage up and running. And I had a little problem with it and had to go back and study a little bit more, and I just haven't had much time for it. Otherwise, not much time for ham radio. K4BSE, back to net.
Okay. And next on the list, we have Bob, N5BRG. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to report. I'm working on projects here, but my progress is slow, just scrambling to be ready for the eclipse. That's all.
Very good. You're in full totality track, right?
Yeah, we are. I'm going to be at University of Texas, Dallas.
Oh, okay.
With a group of people, and the Sarah conference is there, and a lot of even some of the professors and people there are going to set up experiments all together in one location. I think maybe 2 or 3 locations, but it'll be a pretty busy day there, I think.
Yeah. Well, enjoy. Next on the list is Dave, KD0EAG. Go ahead, Dave.
Hello. Spent much of the weekend chasing down an embarrassing at least stupid bug in the magnetometer code for the grape tube guys. Got it fixed, I think. And just trying to put some spit and polish on that and give it back to them. And that's about it for me.
Okay. Next on the list is David in one HAC. Go ahead, David.
Good evening, everyone. As with everyone getting ready for the eclipse and of course getting ready for the workshop. Before that, trying to get some of our radios out before the workshop, and to include one that I'll be bringing with me for show and tell. And I guess that's about it on this side. Been trying to get a hold of Jace Schwartz, but he does not seem to be getting emails from me for some reason. I think Dartmouth has become persona non grata to Gmail or something. But we want to cite one of our receivers at his place. Back to net.
Okay. Next on the list is Gary, AF8A. Go ahead, Gary.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Dave, I want to commend you on the new wiki you're building. Somebody in the last few days joined the HamSci main Google group, and one of his comments was, he says, well, I think I have an RX-888, and I want to load the HamSci software on it and get going and so on and so forth. So I was able to refer him to the wiki, and I think in the end, he realized he was probably in over his head, which is fine because he's got a 6-band whisper transmitter he's going to get on the air before the eclipse. And also he's thinking about buying a Tapper whisper hat and doing some transmitting there as well. So all's well in the end. I also want to recognize Kent, KL5T. Kent, maybe this may or may not be your first day checking in, but Kent is going to be one of our Grape 2 host stations. So he up there in Alaska, he'll be our furthest north and probably furthest west station with the Grape 2s. And that's about it. Back to net.
Very good. Well, I'll call on Kent. I've had a few conversations with Kent off and on, and encouraging them to get involved. So welcome, Kent. And what's the status with you nowadays?
Hi, Dave. Hi to the group, and Gary, thank you. I'm presuming you got my email response with the address, so thank you. We're very happy to be selected as part of to get one of these grape units. And just for reference, so this is all going under from our side. This will go into the Acreage Amateur Radio Club and the Radio Science and Operations Center, which we have in Anchorage. But this will actually be installed at what we're referring to as Detachment 1, Radio Science and Operations Center, Nikiski, Alaska. So very radio quiet there. And actually, believe it or not, this is kind of an interesting note. We occupy the Radio Science and Operations Center. We're actually occupying the former FCC monitoring station in Anchorage. So it was built for radio. So it's a really great spot. They built a new facility on the Kenai Peninsula to remote their operations from. That new facility is literally, because I've got a second home down Nikiski. That new facility is in Nikiski, about 3 miles from my house. So I can't get away from the FCC here. Anyway, we're really looking forward to being part of this adventure. Thank you.
Very good. Welcome. And come back if it's convenient. Next on the list, let's see. I want to make sure I didn't skip anybody. Jim, M5NRA. Jim, are you there?
Good evening. Nothing to report here. I'm just an interested observer. So
Okay.
back to the net.
Well, welcome to the net, and hopefully you get some useful information. Next on the list is John, W16P. Go ahead, John.
Good evening, everyone. I apologize for last week's audio problems. I wanted to report then that I was able to get my 888 receiver playing with HDSDR, but in the course of doing that, I apparently screwed up the audio drivers on my Windows machine, and that was the problem. In any event, I am working to get the 888 online and continuing with the Grape One receivers on 10 and 15 megahertz here in the Puget Sound area. Back to Nat.
Very good. And by the way, for those of you that don't know this, Nathaniel records this and posts it on HamSci under the Tangerine link. Isn't that what it is, Nathaniel?
Yeah, it's still under the Tangerine playlist. Maybe I can change it to Tangerine Clementine playlist or something like
Yes.
that, or just
But
Clementine.
I just wanted to know if you miss a day or you have to go before the end of the thing, you can always go there and see the rest of the Telecon. So it's just a recording of what we're doing here. Next on the list, let's see, is Michael, AC0G. Go ahead, Michael.
Good evening, everybody. And this week, let's see, I'm just trying to make sure that the current 888s that I have are working. I'm using 3 altogether. 2 are here in Missouri. 1 is in Fargo, North Dakota. And the system here in Missouri kind of combines the 2 888 outputs for whisper purposes. Only one of them is gathering data for WWV analysis, WWV and CHU analysis. The one in North Dakota is doing double duty whisper and time and frequency analysis as well. They're both uploading to University of Alabama. So that seems squared away, thankfully. I've been trying to help Rob a little bit to the degree I possibly can, support Whisper Demon things. And we got the one whisper sonde, 6-channel whisper sonde, although we're only using 4 set up here for transmitter purposes. And that seems to be working okay, although not as good as Mike Neruta's in up in Michigan. He's got an awesome antenna system set up there. It would be nice if we could get a couple more channels on, but what this means is Mike's got 8, or sorry, has 6, and we have 4 frequency disciplined beacons that can prove useful for whisper, and we're receiving those as well. I know Dave Larson is, and I am, and at both the Missouri and the North Dakota locations. So hopefully we'll be starting to gather data. And the question I have for further discussion, only we'll mention it now and maybe we can discuss it, is was stimulated by some emails I saw on the VLF tools discussions email chain about some sound card tweaks to try to eliminate some of the harmonics that were appearing in the spectrograms and maybe some of the other noise. And I was wondering about, since observing some of the spectrograms of the data gathered by 888s, wondering whether that was something that we couldn't refine a little bit in some manner, shape, or form prior to the eclipse. It looks to me like there's both perhaps under modulation and maybe over modulation causing splatter on any given moment, and some harmonics across the across time. Don't know enough about it myself, just raising the question. I'm hoping that brighter minds and more experience will shed some light on it. Back to Nat.
Okay, very good. Next on the list is Foan, KD2 HOC. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Patrick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I see everybody has their first name. Yeah, I'm trying to get up to speed. I see I have a long way to go. Work my way through Tom McDermott's tutorials on YouTube, and so I have a Raspberry Pi here. and a separate Linux system. I'm running the I'm running the K89Q radio. So I'm on the third tutorial, and trying to work my way through that. The signals I'm receiving here are pretty weak, but plan to see if I could upgrade the antenna that I'm using right now. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Are you in you have a 2 call sign. Are you in the 2 area?
No, I guess where is the 2 call sign? I'm kind of new. Is that New Jersey?
Yeah, it's what is it? New York and I don't know.
Yeah, it's New Jersey, New York.
Okay. Yes, I'm now in Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
He's
Near
close to
Scranton.
me.
Okay.
He's close to me, so he
Well-
actually comes and visits me in person.
Yes, well,
you did
Nathaniel's a
visit.
wonderful resource. You should take advantage of as much time as he'll give you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
yes.
I was able to I provided Patrick with the university's RX-888. And
Okay.
Patrick came to me, he said, I have a lot of experience in signal processing and things like that. He's like, is there something I can do to help since I'm kind of up in the area now? And I said, here's an RX-888. We need this set up. And so he's trying to get that going.
Yeah.
The other thing to note is that once the eclipse over, that's when the data analysis work starts. And I'm sure Nathaniel has lots of things that you could help with there.
Sure.
So next on the list, let's see, is Randy, AC4FD. Go ahead, Randy.
Hey, good evening. This is the first time for me on this particular call. Some of you may recognize me from the SEQP calls. Really don't have much to report. I will say that I did recently just get a local high school to actually bring in amateur radio into at least a club setting at this point, and hopefully into the classroom. I've got one teacher that's actually going to at least upgrade to general and hopefully to extra at some point. And one of the things that I'd like to do is in the future possibly get HamSci introduced to, this is an all girls high school, so get introduced to the girls. But that's all I have, and thanks a lot. Back to you.
Well, thanks a lot. That's a good project to get going. It's always hard with students because you teach them a lot of stuff and they're really good, and then they graduate and go on. I'm an advisor of a university, or I had been an advisor of a university ham club, and it was always a problem keeping a core of active members. Anyway, next on the list, we have Tom. KJ6MKI. Go ahead, Tom.
Hi. Not much to report. I work with Rob on some of his projects. I was out at KPH last weekend trying to catch up with some really complex power problems, and the station was down for a while. I think we have some of it running, but we had a problem with some of the Kiwis shutting down and then losing their software. When I was out there, Rob had to reload software into 3 Kiwis after there was a power failure. We still don't understand the mechanism, what part of the power supply chain failed. We suspect that data was corrupted or lost during a low voltage brownout, and we're still following that. But in the meanwhile, doing a great deal to re-engineer the power situation at KPH Kiwi site so that the frequent power outages there don't keep dropping the system. And I have a RX-888 which failed out there. It's running on my desk now through one of the Ryzen B-Link systems, and after failing out there, it's running fine on my desk. And we're still in the troubleshooting mode, trying to understand why all those SDRs went down during an extended power failure, which was basically supported by a backup battery, but the battery must have run down after a couple of days. And we speculate that soft voltage decline caused the memories to be screwed up, contaminated, or lost. Anyway, that's all I have. I'll be on the sidelines here until I have to go fix dinner, and it's great to see you all.
Okay, very good. Next on the list is Tom in 5EG. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, good evening, Dave, and everyone on the group. Not too much to report this week. A lot of other activities going on, and hopefully we'll get back to the project here. Back to the net.
And Tom, I really want to thank you for producing all these tutorial demos, and I linked to them in my cheat sheet. So,
well, you're welcome. I'm getting calls on the phone and emails from folks who have been going through them. So I think they're getting watched by some people who are giving them a try. So I'm glad to be able to put them out.
Very good.
I appreciate that too. Thank you.
Yes, and so there is a lot of video resources as well. Both these recordings, Tom's recordings. So there's quite a bit of resources, but we're trying to get it organized so that you can find all those resources reasonably easily. So I think I've gone through the list. I hope I didn't skip anybody. And so at this point, I think we're going to be open for general discussion.
Nathaniel, did you say that there's an agenda or a preliminary agenda out?
Yes, there is. I can put it right in the chat.
Awesome.
There you go.
So this is an agenda for the HAMSI meeting that is next week, right?
That's correct.
Okay,
in Cleveland.
That's right. And
Nathaniel,
yes.
Mike, if you got my email, I'm just going to reiterate the question here because I'm just curious what you think, what your thoughts are looking at some of the spectrograms from 888 sites that are collecting, 9 concurrent channels. Some of those same 1 hertz harmonic bands were visible, and some of the vertical sort of splatter were visible, suggesting the possibility, I guess, of some overload or excess volume there. But then there were sections of those spectrograms where suddenly there was a really large, major dropout in terms of volume. And my question was, is that reflecting the reality of what's going on in the ionosphere, or is this something that we really should pay attention to from a digital signal processing point of view?
I think the very large, so the first part of the question, I don't have a good answer for. So maybe other people can look at that more carefully with the harmonics and things like that. I haven't had a chance to look at it closely, and I'm not sure that I have the best solution for it. The second part with the sudden dropouts, we've noticed that same sudden dropout across the Grape 1 FL Digis and across the Grape 1 digital RFs. And the New England Grape Group and George Kavanaugh have found that corresponds with a dip in the maximum usable frequency. So it actually, he was able to pull maps from Andrew Rodland KC2G's website and demonstrate that when the MUF dropped over the region of those grapes, you saw the sudden drop off in the signal, and this would extend for hours, and it corresponded, and the different grapes that were in the same area would show the same drop off at the same time. So if it's a similar type of drop off, it's probably explained by that. And George has a talk about it at the HAMSI workshop next week. I think you're
I'll be
muted.
looking forward to hearing that. Let me just share my screen here if I can call this up. Basic. There we go. What I'm talking about are, well, first of all, can you see this?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
the vertical lines I think are splatter.
Right.
And they correspond with how red the volume, so to speak, the amplitude of the carrier is.
Right.
Right. You see these spikes here.
So it looks like
with
it's
some
overloading.
perhaps some overloads. Then you get in this section here, you get nice and quiet, but of
Yeah.
course the carrier is practically
So
undetectable.
right, but
then
that's
down
interesting. Wait,
here,
go back to that for a second. Go
yes,
back up. So that's kind of interesting too, because what that might be, all through the night, you might be getting F region refractions, which you see with the F region, you get F region paths, you get lots of variability. And then right as you go into
this,
daytime,
and
yep,
then here,
yeah, then
it quiets.
it gets
We're at
quiet.
2.5
And if
megahertz
you're,
here.
and it's probably just refracting off of the E layer, which is typically very stable.
Yeah.
So
Well, that would account for some, and the amplitude here is pretty dramatic, how it drops down
yes,
here around 14 hours.
yes, that
Now,
makes sense, and that's going from night into day right there.
exactly.
So
Now you
that's
see
not the
here,
buff dropout that I was
no,
talking about before. That's just going from night into day.
but then you see these 1 hertz harmonic lines here that are horizontal across in
Yeah,
some of these things where the amplitude is quite high. You
yeah,
see the same thing pretty dramatically in this
yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Now, but
that's the
look
tick
at
on
this.
WWV.
I beg your pardon?
That's the 1 second tick on WWV.
At 1 hertz.
Right, right. There's
Right,
every second
right.
there's a tick.
Well, no, the ticks are at 5 and 6 or 500 and 600 hertz, not 100 hertz.
No,
Um,
I mean, once a minute, once a minute, once a second. You know, if you listen to WWV, you'll hear tick, 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 tick at the top of every second, and that's what those lines are from.
well, but not at all these frequencies. Those ticks are at either 4 or
No,
wait a
they're
minute,
at
let me make
1,000 hertz and
or
1,200
1,000 hertz.
and 1,200.
Yeah,
But what he's saying
That's
is those
I beg your pardon.
those
You're
1
correct.
hertz
Yes.
lines are coming from the tick. They're harmonics of the tick.
Or they're harmonics of the ticks. Okay. Well, then this is another example. These two, for instance, where you get the variation in the carrier, of course, and you get the variation in the harmonics with some vertical splatter, and then a sudden drop off. There's a persistent trace of what looks like the carrier across there, and then it gets loud again. The same thing happens down here, but it doesn't correspond with the same time. It's a wider window. Here, it's a little bit more dramatic, and way up at 25 megahertz. Who the hell knows what's going on? But I go back to my original question.
Yeah, so that right
Is
there,
this data good? I beg your pardon?
yes, this is beautiful data.
Okay.
This is absolutely gorgeous data. I think so. Let's see. Yeah, so what you're seeing at 10 megahertz there, that drop off between like 4 UT and 12 UT.
Uh-huh.
I believe that is the muff phenomena we were talking about. I was talking about before.
Okay.
And then you see it becomes more pronounced as you go higher in frequency.
Here's the CHU at 14.67.
Yeah.
And here's 15 megahertz WWV.
Yeah, so as you go up in frequency, that drop off becomes even more pronounced because the muff is dropping.
Okay.
This is beautiful data. This is gorgeous.
Okay. Well, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
I know there was discussions about, maybe
Yeah.
we're setting the sound card settings wrong in VLF tools. There was an email conversation going along those lines, and it just raised the question in my mind whether we needed to pay attention to whether we were doing some or could make some further refinements in the DSP. But if this is
Yeah.
looking good to you, Nathaniel, then I'm happy.
Well, I do think I should say, like, you know, if we can do things to mitigate the harmonics, and if we can do things to probably, you know, reduce the splatter, I think that will improve it. But, you know, so I think there is room for improvement. But I think with that said, this is still looking like very usable data that's showing patterns that I'm used to seeing.
Okay. Excellent.
Michael, where's your station located? Because I'm looking at my 10 megahertz Grape 1 data.
This station is in central Missouri.
Okay, it's quite a ways from where I'm at in Ohio, so I can see where there might be some difference. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The beauty of it is that we get these, you know, you get 9 charts here that are all at exactly the same time. And it's kind of fascinating to just see what's happening at these different frequencies concurrently, and how different the changes are, how different the timing is of the changes. And yeah, it's going to be nice to try to pull it all together in a coherent explanation of what's happening.
So Gary,
Yes.
my station is about 20 miles from Michael's, and we're collecting the same data.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just wasn't seeing that drop off between 4 and 12. But again, I'm 500 or 700 miles away, so that's okay.
Yeah. And we're all both Michael and I are uploading to the Alabama, the database, Bill Engelkey's database.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
But you're using a Grape 1 and he's using the RX 288.
I'm using RX 888.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have
Yeah,
a Grape 1 or a Grape 2.
Yeah, I've got the oldest system, the Grape 1 FL Digi, so I was just trying to compare. But I understand the differences, no problem.
Well, I have a Grape 1. Well, it's not a Grape 1. It's a grapeless grape. I set it up with FL Digi, but with a disciplined RSPDX. So I'm using the FL Digi and uploading the data as well. So that might be an interesting comparison in itself on 5 megahertz, is to compare what I'm getting out of the RSPDX with FL Digi with the RX 888.
And just to say, the setup for the the grapeless grape, Michael wrote a nice article in the PSR at Tapper, so you can read about how to do it.
Rob showed up.
Hey,
Hello,
Rob.
Rob.
I'm here. I'm back from Maui. So
Oh, good.
trying to catch up. The activities of today, well, I could go on and on about Maui, but significant activity for this group is that I was out at KFS today, and I've reestablished 3 RX 888s there, one on the Omni antenna, one on the northwest, and one on the southwest. So all 3 of them will be reporting as separate instruments. And I think that it should be a source of interesting information. The southwest is I don't know, 12 dBi gain log periodic that's pointed right at Hawaii. And there's nothing pointing at the Omni is the alternative to get the signals from Colorado, WWE from Colorado. But anyway, as soon as I can finish the configuration work, you should see some additional plots like the ones that Michael's just showed. These will be all 10 bands of time channels. there is a fourth antenna, the southeast antenna, which is a huge thing. And I think actually it does quite well into the central US. I just received my latest new batch of Kiwis. So I'm going, once I modify them, I'm thinking this will be the fourth antenna at KFS, and the fifth one will be for a demo at the convention conference in 2 weeks. So I went through in the last, since our last meeting, and we have, I think, 10 of the Whisper Demon Grape systems are uploading, including, of course, Michael's, the ones you saw. But there are a total of 10 that seem to all be configured and uploading properly. There'll be 3 additional stations that come online in the next day or two. And the only one after, and KA7OEI should be contributing. I configured it this morning. And it's the best received system in the West, apart from, well, in its region. It's another TCI 530 in northern Utah. So it's one skip hop away from WWV. So we've got 2 stations near WWV. W0DAS, I went and looked at it. I was talking with Gwen this morning, and we went to look at those charts, very helpful charts, I would say, for DAS, and saw that it was clearly overloading. So I went over to there and reduced the gain this morning. So I hopefully will get better charts. I mean, basically DAS should be a horizontal line. He's 2.5 miles from WWV. But you know, there surprisingly, there's a remarkable amount of you know, NVIS. So it's interesting that if you look at Doppler shift and spreading on 40 meters, it's far worse than it is on 20. And we believe, although it's not proven, we believe that's because there's a whole lot more. There are multiple paths, multiple interfering multipaths, you know, and multiple paths through the NVIS that perturb the phase of the received signal. That doesn't happen to the same extent at higher bands, 20 and higher, where there are fewer multipath observations. But anyway, DAS is hopefully I want to look at that, and I'm trying to calibrate these systems now that I've got most of them operational. I'm trying to calibrate them and make sure that they're giving us good data in anticipation of the eclipse. So that's, I think, the major observations. Bill Engelby has the mysterious problem. His system goes deaf. I think I'll probably send one of these to Bill. I'd really like to get him have a good stable system. And if it's a hardware problem, the only way to determine that is to switch out the hardware. Although I don't believe
his antenna is good. When that 888 is working, he gathers lots of spots.
Oh, he's got a great receive site. So if it and it was working for a while, it's just mysterious. It's the most mysterious phenomenon that it'll be on and you'll get full RF signal strength. Will be reported by Phil's control program, full strength for seconds or minutes, and then it drops. Basically, it loses everything. And if you do a restart of the software, it's back. So it's strange that a software restart would fix a hardware problem.
Yeah.
So that's what's mysterious to me. But the easiest thing is to send him a.
Rob, isn't he running Flex collecting data as well?
I think he has he may. I think, I don't know what other.
At least in the database, it appears he's uploading data that says that it's from a Flex.
Yeah, I believe he may have another grape recording system that comes through his Flex. This
Yes.
is his 888 Whisper Demon grape
Yep.
system that we're talking about. So that's he has some reporting problems. So we need to work with him. The other sites I think are you know, I need to go, or maybe Michael can help me go through and look at the charts for all of the Whisper Demon grape sites and make sure that the data is good. It's and present, of course, and good at all these sites. But I think you know, I think I'll end up with about 15 or 16 Whisper Demon grape sites, and I think that's becoming a significant portion of the total number of observations that are in the database. So I feel like I'm close to achieving my goals for this project. If there are other things that need to be done, you know, let me know. But basically, the way it's working now is, as long as I fix all the sites, I think it's configure the sites. I think we pretty much have what we have. We'll have a couple more. There's a site, Paul Elliott, who manufactures the Whisper Sonde, has put up a receive site up in Seattle area, out in the San Juan Islands. So I will. It's a 888 on a B-Link, so he can do, you know, he can do grape observations at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think I don't know that that's the critical observation site for our for the eclipse. Let's see, Michael, you guys, Michael, your site is awesome. It's he put up Whisper Sonde on what you have six band Whisper Sonde, and I think you're transmitting on. You have antennas for all 6 outputs now.
No.
Well, 6 outputs are connected to 6 antennas.
Yeah. Well, you know, you have, I don't know if you guys ever look at the top beacon sites, or if I may,
Go
I'll
ahead.
share it. Okay. Let's see if I share with you let's see. Oh yeah, here. This is Phil VK7JJ's top beacon sites. So let me just hit, this is due 24 hours to now. So this is sorted by the number of uniques, different spots that were received. And if you sort by that, these people in Europe, of course,
Denmark.
do well, because although they don't have a lot of spots, they have many receive sites can get them. You know, they get everybody in Europe and everybody in the US. This guy is a pretty amazing site. He has individual transmitters, U3Ss, on individual inverted Vs planted in a marsh in Florida. So that's a pretty, you know, it's hard to beat that. Also, latitude has a lot to do with how many people hear you, and he's at a lower latitude there. I don't know this guy at all. And I don't know how you know, I don't know him at all. I don't know these guys. So you have to go down a ways. But where are you? Here you are, 17. So if you look at by the number of uniques, different receive sites that heard you, you have 1,500 of the potential perhaps of 2,200 or so. But if you sort by the number of raw, in other words, the number of receives, Michael's at the top of the list. Okay, well, that's of course that's because he's transmitting on, you know, 6 bands simultaneously, and I suspect he would do better in terms of number of uniques if he were also transmitting. He had a Whisper Sonde 8 and had a 17 meter and 12 meters transmission as well.
Rob also mentioned that number 4 is Dave Whitten.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's the other Whisper Sonde. The 6. You guys are transmitting out of Missouri, and
and it's a simpler antenna than Michael has.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's something to be said. The fellow in Florida with the individual antennas, the inverted V's or dipoles on each band. I think there's something to that. And it's an NI5F. I think he has individual antennas, and of course they're located in I think a good transmission location. So and he's at a lower latitude. So
Yeah.
anyway, there's all those factors are included. At number 7, right below him, is John, who's has a WhisperSont in San Jose, Costa Rica, and he does, as you can see, extremely well. In part because of his lower latitude. Latitude has a lot to do with how many people hear you, and that's. I'm sure that if John put a transmitter up on the Canary Islands, that he would rapidly jump to the top of the unique list. And this conversation suggests that I ought to make that suggestion to him, although I wouldn't want him to deafen his
receive
his receive sites. Yeah, his receive sites are great. So anyway,
Number 2 there is Paul Elliott.
This is Paul Elliott, and this is his transmit site up in Washington State. I guess he
Right.
must not be on. He just returned, drove down to his house in near us in San Francisco, and so there's these are the purpose of all this is not to win, to be at the top of these lists. That's not my purpose. Some people may have that purpose, but my purpose is that we have sites that deliver the most useful ionospheric measurements. And I do think that the number of raw receive events is actually the most relevant for our scientific endeavors, because it's not the number of different people that hear you, but it's the number of reports and how consistently and often there are reports of your signal that are of use. And I think that this list here kind of indicates the importance of the WhisperSont and the multiple transmissions at a similar time. So anyway, that's one of my thoughts.
Rob,
we have, yes.
Yeah. I just want to let you know that I'm going to try to set up a Whisper Demon receiver here with the RX-888 with the help of Patrick Honan. So hopefully I'll get that up in time before the eclipse as well.
Yeah, it shouldn't be hard, and Michael and I are available to help.
Thank you.
It is we in the one thing during the Maui trip that I can't, and I think I need to post it up multiple places, is I had hoped that we'd be able to pair the 888 with an Orange Pi, just because it would be lower cost, but more importantly, lower power. And that's especially important for me in Maui, where I've, as of tomorrow, will no longer own a little cottage. So we, with the help of Brett, KG6RGR, we moved my receive equipment and actually modified it, moved it out to a site where I can keep it, even though I don't own the property. Hopefully be able to keep it pretty much indefinitely. But in that process, we'd hoped to find a receive system that would be lower power than the B-Link, but and that being the Orange Pi. But it turns out the Orange Pi has it's a wonderful piece of hardware, but it's fatally flawed by its lack of operating system support. That Huawei has been uncooperative with the open source community and is offering only a kernel 3 or something. It's a 10-year-old kernel on the device. So it's pretty much, we ran into problems with Phil's software running on it. There were bursts of noise and garbage on it that I think Phil and we all agreed tracked down to some scheduling problems in Linux. And the software was so old, the build was so old that you couldn't really do a real-time kernel for Brett created one, but it didn't really run well at all. And the kernel is so old and so unsupported and so on that I'm actually at this point saying it's not a usable platform for. I would not recommend it for anything actually, and it's just because of its lack of support by the open source community. So it would be nice to find something. Maybe the Pi 5 is an alternative, but the Pi 5 is a kind of compromised CPU, and so I'm not very happy with a Pi 5 as an alternative. We were able to get it running with 888, but well, I'm not sure I actually got it running with the 888. To be honest, I don't know anybody's running it, so I don't think there's a good low power solution out there for the 888. So I think the best solution right now, so far, the best compromise is the B-Link with its own set of frailties. I mean, it's a gamer PC, so it's not exactly. It's mostly in these things. It's mostly a cooling problem. Is that whisper decoding is so CPU demanding that these CPUs heat up. So if you have your B-Link at your desk, every 2 minutes you're going to hear the fans spin up, for 15, 10, 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. So I think
Rob?
that'd be really annoying. Yes.
Rob, what model of B-Link are you guys using?
It's a SER 5 with a Ryzen 5 5560U. It's the CPU is a mobile, a laptop class CPU, 15 watts total dissipation rating. There are a whole series of vendors who offer this CPU. I think of all the CPUs I've encountered, it's the best trade-off in terms of performance and power consumption that's available right now. The Intel parts are I don't think Intel has any part that compares to it in the power and performance trade-off. So I have a different vendor's 5560U here on my desk, but its BIOS doesn't allow you to go into it and optimize the fan speed. So I'm very specific in telling people if you want a 5560, it will run on a Lenovo ThinkCentre Tiny, a 6500T. I mean, I'm being very specific about the hardware because I've encountered problems with other pieces of hardware. That one works, although that's an old CPU, and you're pretty much maxing it out. It runs. Glenn has one that I've configured his site. And it runs basically at 100% CPU all the time, for doing whisper decoding and grape recording. Dave, DAS site.
So is the B-Link the cheapest processor you've found that runs the 888?
It's reasonably priced, $250 for these 50. They've gone up a bit. I bought they're $259, I think, on Amazon.
I see it at $329 right now.
No, Amazon. It's $259. I bought one on Monday. I bought one on Sunday, and it was delivered to me in Maui by Amazon on Tuesday. Amazing. And it's $259 plus tax. And if I will give you, I'll look aside here when we're done and put it in the chat how you can. But it depends when you do your search. It depends where it shows up. Which vendor and what price they offer it at. But I think that at this point I'm telling, I think I can only tell people what I've tested and know that works. And right now it's those two devices. I'm sure, I'm sure there's other higher end, desktops. I'm sure many desktop that will support the B-Link, but this is a demanding application, and it's not so much even the CPU power, it's the ability to power the 888 without having glitches in the 5-volt line going down the USB cable, and glitches in the transfer of this 1 to 2 gigabit per second stream. Now those are non-trivial. I mean, it's mind-boggling that a USB through cable can carry that. To me, I can remember when we were, getting 1200, 2600 baud down cables like that. Sure. So it's just amazing that we can do it. But it doesn't. It's not trivial. It's not trivial. I have people. Some people have plugged their B-Link into the USB 2 port. It's easy to do. It fits, but it doesn't power up and run. And Jim's software, Phil's software doesn't. It doesn't. You have to know how to get into the syslog to know what it's doing and so on. So it's not a trivial thing to install one of these things right now, and it doesn't happen automatically. The
main problem that I understand happening with the B-Link, if it's a marginal processor that is on the edge when you buy it, I recall Brett saying that the trouble, and Brett and Clint, that the trouble lay in the power supply. That the assumption in the delivery of the system was that it was going to be for intermittent use, a gamer's use, a desultory browser's use, not sort of the continuous every 2 minute or every 1 minute really processing intensive use that Whisper Daemon makes of it. And that posed some problems with the power supply that was delivered with it. If you have an independent power supply that can give it better and more reliable current and voltage, then you might be able to get more life out of the marginal ones. Otherwise, you can pay another 50 or $100 and get a higher level Ryzen 7, like a 5800 or something that will have a little more juice and comes with a better quality power supply.
Yeah, I haven't had that problem with the Ryzens I bought. The power supplies have been adequate. My measured peak usage is this is the one I bought on Sunday. So and I haven't had any problem with this power supply. The peak power usage on this when you run all 6 cores, 12 hyper-threaded, is about 36 watts, and that includes the 5 watts for the 888. So there's been some concern expressed. I haven't. The power supplies that have come with them have all been 3 watt, 19 volt, 0.5 volt, 3 watts, and the most power draw I've seen from them is 2 amps. Interestingly, if you're concerned about power efficiency, the power supplies are incredible. The power factor of some of them is terrible. I mean, 50%, power factor. So half of the power is getting burned up inside of heating up the components in the power brick. So if you're concerned, as I am, well, we're not using those power supplies at the solar site, but if you're concerned about that, or the power consumption, those are just terrible. I hadn't really appreciated power factor as an issue until recently. I was introduced to it by Clint and Brett as an issue, and I have a little, as many of us do, a little kilowatt And I started to push the power factor button, and wait a second, I've got a 20 watt, PC here that's consuming 40 watts off the of AC. That's why the power supply gets nice and warm. So, because the power goes someplace.
Well, did you have it on watts or volt amps?
Volt amps. That's
Yeah.
what, yeah.
That's
yeah,
not true watts. That's just
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the whole point.
Well, anyway, to me that hasn't been a big issue, and in our site in Maui, our issue was not was we powered it from 12 volts, and we got it up converter to go to 19. So anyway, that's the that's the B-Link. Let me put a link into the chat if you're interested in it. I think they're so far it's the best compromise I've come up with. Everything in engineering is a compromise, and it's a reasonable one. So
Yeah, and
for
you
me,
say that the Ryzen 7 5800 is a bit better.
I will. It consumes significantly more power. It costs more, and it adds 2 cores. That seems to be the biggest difference. The total performance of it is not much greater than the 5560. So I think that
Yeah, I guess
Do
the
you have
point is the
the same fan issue though? I mean, one of the concerns that you have with the 5560 is overheating and the lack of kernel support for a dynamic fan control.
No, and the B-Link you do. And this, I can say, with this 5560, you go into the BIOS, and they have a setting where you can set the fan for automatic speed control, and they have a nice set of settings where you can specify what temperature it turns on, and what temperature it reaches max fan speed, the curve of increasing fan speed, with a proper setting of the B-Link. My CPUs, the B-Links out at KFS and KPH are always running at 60C or less. And in fact, when they're not doing whisper decoding, they're usually running down in the 40C region, 42, 45, 48. So I think that the B-Link, they I don't know, I think all these guys get their BIOS from AMD or AMI or something. But B-Link put all of the AMI options in it, including this fan speed control. Whereas this other brand's 5560 does not. I can't control the fan speed. And they have fan speed control drivers for Windows, for the gamers, but they don't provide it for Linux. So if you don't get it in the BIOS, you're probably not going to get it out of, Linux isn't going to be able to control the fan speed. So I think that's I started to look only in the last month or two, start looking at, BTOP. I look at the BTOP charts for the CPU operation performance, and it reports the CPU temperature. And I've started to pay attention to that. And I think everyone should on their computers. BTOP is there's regular top, there's H-top, and then there's BTOP, and each of them shows you different things. But for me, BTOP gives me the information, all of these different pieces of information that are of most relevance and importance to me. So, but that I would look at your CPU temperature, irrespective. It's whatever platform you're on. Look at your CPU temperature and make sure you're not overheating your CPU. I mean, I look at these guys with the i9 12Ks. I mean, their CPUs are up at 100C. How long are those things going to last? I mean, 100C, you're boiling water on these chips. I just, you've got, to me, it seems just crazy to expect that to last for years. And one of my goals for Whisper Demon is this is something that you should plug in and run for years, like you do your refrigerator. You know, it should work like a refrigerator. It works when it works. And if the power goes away, of course, it can't do anything. But when the power comes back, it resumes operation, and you should never need to worry about it. And I think if you have a CPU that's running at 100C, I think you need to worry about it. And I would anyway. That's why. And the 5560 has plenty of CPU at KPH. You can we are on one 5560. We're decoding all 15 whisper bands, all the time channels, and recording them to Grape. And we have a 8-band WebSDR, all running on the same platform, and consuming, I don't know, 30% of the CPU on average, except when Whisper decodes. Anyway, that's my diatribe of the night. So I could show you other pictures if you're interested. Can show you the we put up this solar powered Maui receive site, which will contribute great, but I don't think reliably in time for eclipse. But eventually we will get this thing up, and let me see. Let's see. Here's where I was. One of the places I was working for quite a bit for the last. So this is this site is where I serve internet service to a largely native Hawaiian community on a very remote part of West Maui. This is the windward, the northeast side of the island. So this site, you can see the Ubiquiti dishes that are used for the internet service, and then the solar panels that are used to power both the internet service and actually the lower panel is the one that powers our SDR radios, which was really recently installed. That was what we installed this week. So anyway, that's a work in progress. We're going to have to go back and refine it to make it more. Well, there's a lot of RFI that's being generated apparently in the PoE lines that are going up to those to those dishes. So we just ran out of time to work on it. And I could show you someplace the innards of this, but I don't know any other. I think these could be. This is to me a kind of the model though of what it would be nice to have distributed around the world for propagation measurements. You know, self-contained, solar-powered, but wirelessly internet connected receive site. And I can run unattended. And it seems to me that, you know, that would be a long-term goal for an enterprise like HAMSI, is to be able to distribute those and obtain recordings and observations from around the world, not just those centered here on WWV. That site is, well, let's see, what is that? Maui is. It may be difficult, you know. We hear, of course, here WWVH pretty well there, but it's not line of sight by any means. So it's not going to be a satisfy that need.
So Nathaniel, we're talking a lot about some of the hardware stuff here. From a scientific question point of view, obviously the front and center is data gathering for the eclipse, but looking forward, what kind of ideas do you have in mind about the kind of signals we should be sending back and forth and the use to which you can put that to scientific purposes?
I think it depends very much on where the stations are located. So well, there's certain things that, happen every day. So like we can look at the transition from dawn to dusk and dusk to dawn. So that's something we can look at. We can also look at how are things affected by geomagnetic storms in general. So that can pretty much go anywhere. If you're at higher latitude regions, like going up into Canada, you are interested in things looking at, say, like the auroral zone propagation and how the aurora might affect things as you go, down into the mid latitudes, again to a subauroral section. As you go down further, there's a lot of interest in like transequatorial propagation, and there's a lot of interest in what do you call it? In these things called equatorial spread F and plasma bubbles. So those are some of the different science targets you might be looking at. And also in the mid latitude region, I'm of course interested in traveling ionospheric disturbances as well. So
Well, so we're relying for a great deal of the data here on the transmissions from WWV. But
right.
if you have frequency stabilized transmissions from whisper sondes,
Yeah.
Where would you, in terms of geographic locations, what would be interesting? Kent is up there in Alaska. I've got a nephew that lives up in Anchorage, Alaska.
Yeah.
Plunking a 6 or 8 channel transmitter on whisper frequencies in latitudes of that level of variety. We met last week. What was his name? Sunyo, a Japanese ham who was interested potentially in sighting, whether it's a receiver site or a transmitter site or both,
Right.
over in Japan. Those sorts of things, where WWV isn't necessarily the anchor of all of this. We could have frequency stabilized transmitters scattered all over the world.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think this is very useful. And I can tell you, I know there's another NSF proposal call that's due like May 15th, and that's for the it's for the next distributed array of distributed array of small instruments, so the next DAISY grant. And I'm thinking that this system might be a good focal point of that particular grant proposal. So
Yeah.
I think I have to think about this and probably flesh out some of those ideas. And Rob, I'll probably be calling you to talk
Okay.
about some of these things. We could get
Okay.
some of
Well,
your ideas too.
okay. Well, I think there's, we have, for these kind of frequency domain measurements, I think we have now a complete, pretty complete end-to-end solution. I'm not entirely satisfied with the receiver.
Yeah.
Because both the RX 888 and the B-Link is a long-term platform. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't like either the unknown manufacturer of the 888 and the gaming manufacturer of the B-Link. But I think that I think they're pretty solid. The transmit side I think is done. I think Paul's whisper sound is it's deployable product. You could turn those out. He can just crank those things out really easily. So
That's excellent.
and it provides frequency stability and almost. I've wondered this question. Maybe it occurs to me if we're really trying to discriminate between WWV and WWVH, we're looking at these side tones. How much energy is in those side tones relative to a whisper transmission? I mean, yes, the carrier is 5 kilowatts, but how much? But that carrier is actually of kind of seems to me to have some questionable utility because there's two transmitting sites. And so there is, for many times, there's interference between them, which renders the phase and frequency measurements to be of less value. So if you wanted to look at one carrier from one station, you have to look at the 1 kilohertz or 1200 hertz offset from the carrier, because those frequencies, offset frequencies, are unique to each transmitter. Is my understanding. But how much power is in them? And how much power is there? If we're using WWV because it's obviously it's there and it's the history and all that, but if we have our own set of transmitters, what power level would they need to output in order to match the kind of transmission capabilities of each of the WWV transmitters? Am I being clear with that question?
Well, yeah, but they're because the WWV transmitters are quite powerful. Even their sidebands have significant energy.
Question
each of the sidebands of an AM transmission has, I believe, a quarter of the total power. And the carrier is half the total power.
Yeah. So
they're quite comparable. And now the WWV is, I think, 50% modulated. So that gives you lower power, but still, an eighth of 10 kilowatts is a lot of power.
It is, if that's all going into the 1 kilohertz tone.
It's not the 1 kilohertz. It's the 500 or the 600
or whatever. Okay, I'm sorry. I thought it was 1 kilohertz. Whatever.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's AM
okay. Well, okay. Well, no. I just don't. Forgive me for I haven't really studied that page where they describe it.
And I was talking about this before. If you can correlate the two sidebands, you've got double the power. Even though they're different frequencies, that they're correlated.
Yeah.
So you can reduce the noise.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Well, I didn't. Okay. So what you're saying is that at significant periods of time, that WWV transmits 500. Is it 500 hertz?
Well, they alternate between 5 and 6, but they're distinguishable one from the other.
Yeah, I understand that. The question is that the only tone they're transmitting at that time, other than the carrier?
No.
Well, they're also transmitting
there's the second
100
pulses,
hertz.
and then there's the 100 hertz, which is constant.
Yeah.
But they both
it's not
broadcast
constant.
the carrier
it's
and
modulated too. It's on and off. It's pulse modulated, time modulated.
Well,
it's a time code in the 100 hertz, but that can also, I don't think you could distinguish the two carriers with the 100 hertz, unfortunately.
No, that's not knowing that, I just wondered how much of effective power output is unique to each of the transmitters, on one frequency. So how much and that unique is that
on the order of 100 watts.
Okay, well, so that means that a whisper transmitter at 100 watts would be as effective for our purposes as WWV is. Is that a reasonable conclusion?
Well, the other point is geographic location. You've only got 2 of them, or 5 if you add the 3 CHU sites.
I understand.
In terms of mapping.
No, a complication of whisper is its modulation. It's frequency modulated.
Plus, their antenna system is awesome.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Well, anyway,
with the WWV, we're looking at the continuous wave carrier. So now with Whisper, you only have like little snippets of that in time.
Well, that's this is another thing. This is an area where I think that could be addressed. I mean, once you've decoded the carrier, right, decoded a whisper signal, you could deconvolute out. You can regenerate. You know what the transmitter frequency it was transmitting at every instant, even though it was changed every second. it changed. You know what that frequency was. So, so it seems to me that it's quite possible to deconvolute that out and effectively generate a single tone carrier, a logical single tone carrier, given that you have, you know, once if you know that if the transmitter and the receiver are right time synchronized, right, GPS synchronized, and the receiver decodes the signal, then deconvolute out the modulation, and you get back to a unmodulated carrier.
I
So
think
you
it's a
can look at
really, really good idea.
and I think that would give you from the whisper transmissions, give you the kind of instantaneous or continuous Doppler shift information that you get from monitoring WWV carriers.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent idea.
I think it'd be a great project for a master's or PhD or somebody, some interested person to write that. It's a software project. It doesn't require any change to the hardware.
Right.
All you do is you take those IQ or WAV file recordings, the PCM recordings, and the decoded output, right?
Yeah.
The decoded output includes the information about the time delay of the start, so you can get within a fraction of a tenth of a second of or better of when the transmitter actually started. So I think the transitions occur. Yes, there are frequency transitions associated with FSK, but I think that you could get very close to what you get out of a continuous carrier transmission from appropriate processing of a whisper recording. And to me, that would open up the whole of the whisper world to studies, the same set of studies that you're doing on WWE carriers.
Plus the geographic distribution.
Plus, you end up with geographic
You'd be able to
distribution.
you're able to map things,
Yeah.
all the different paths. And
Yeah. Now, and there are over 3,000 beacons around the world transmitting right now. Now, yes, many of them are drifting, so they're not useful. But Gwen's looked at Whisper 2 transmissions in Europe and said about 10% of them were stable enough for scientific study. It's amazed me that he thought that 10% of the Whisper 2 transmitters were that good. Because I'm sure that they're not now they're not maybe frequency accurate. They don't know what frequency they're transmitting on. They're really transmitting on, but their oscillators are stable enough for the duration of the 2 minutes that they're not introducing a Doppler shift on their own, significant Doppler shift on their own. So I mean, those are the areas that I'd love to see somebody investigate, and I think it's a opportunity for I think especially Nathaniel for if we can find somebody. This I don't know. MIT, it seems like Phil and the guys at Haystack ought to be interested in this. I mean, don't you want more signals?
Oh, I
by
totally
the way,
do.
yeah. One other opportunity that I didn't discuss is I've been talking with Larry. I forget his last name.
Sarah?
And I forget what?
Larry Sarah?
He's in South San Diego. I thought he would be
N6NC?
maybe, yeah. And he's been working with the Japanese on monitoring the super darn transmissions, and by making recordings of the super darn transmissions on 1100 something kilohertz. So I've one of the reasons I went out to KFS today was that I promised Larry he could provide him with an account and a receive channel on one of the KFS 888 machines, so that he can make recordings of that super darn transmissions. And from what I can see is what they're 25 kilohertz wide, so he needs a 25 kilohertz at a 50 kilosample recording centered on whatever that band is. It's the same software, everything the same as what we do for Grape. So it's almost entirely a configuration matter for me to give him those recordings. And of course, they'll be 24/7, and he can, yeah, we can upload them to Japan instead of uploading them to, Alabama.
And we can do
So,
them from any one of the Whisper Demon sites.
yeah, and if you want some more sites, we can get Maui up. We can get them from Hawaii. We can get them from Seattle. We can get them from anywhere. There's right now 10 active Whisper Demon Grape sites. So this is just an additional channel of Whisper Demon Grape recording. Is just I've been too busy to work on it, and then but it's now bubbling up the top of my to-do list. So so I don't think does Larry participate in our calls? He has been calling in to my Wednesday morning Grape Whisper Demon call, so he may be there. But anyway, I've been eager to start to work with Super Darn data. I think that's interesting. I don't know much about it other than 25 kilowatts, some kind of transmitter with log periodic arrays that are directed at the Arctic, and they send out a pulse, and then they determine which direction the strongest reflection comes from. Is that accurate understanding?
Yeah, mostly so they typically have 16 antennas that are in a linear phased array system, and they use that to do electronic beam forming, and they send out a multi-pulse pattern. And then they get the returns from that multi-pulse pattern, compute an autocorrelation function, and then they can fit that to compute Doppler velocities and power values and Doppler spreads.
Okay, well, I'm happy to contribute to that. I think we can get some additional data that might complement what they do. I mean, they're doing a backscatter basically. They're looking at backscatter, right?
That's right.
So, and we'd be looking at forward paths.
Yes.
And ideally, we'd have sites that were single hop, so you would end up not depending upon backscatter, that you'd be looking only at the ionospheric path,
right,
and part of the path. And that data, I think Gwen showed, is far more accurate and insightful than the backscatter would be. So I think we could increase the resolution and utility of the SuperDAR network with the Whisper Demon Grape network deployments. That's another thing you could put into your NSF proposal.
I know.
Nathaniel.
It's gonna be quite the proposal.
They say, so they're spending how many millions of dollars running these sites every year?
I know.
And give us $500,000. And we will give you a whole lot more data, useful data out of that existing network.
Yeah.
And that'd be kind of my ultimate message is we can help you.
Yes.
Get better, do better. I mean, we have receive sites. I mean, we've got the Ellesmere Island, which has been somewhat neglected. I mean, I haven't even looked at it for months. Bill Lyle's kind of stimulated that project, but he hasn't. He's kind of disappeared, and Pierre Fogel, who goes up there, it's not his area of particular interest. So nobody's been pushing on it. There is a transmit site there as well. It could be upgraded to from what it has now to a whisper sonde. That might be a very valuable site to upgrade. And it already has the transmit antenna in place. So it's at a location about, I don't know, 10 kilometers from the receive site. But I think if, you know, I think somebody who's dedicated to this project ought to be going up there. Pierre has been very helpful, but it isn't his area of expertise or particular interest.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get access to that. It's a, you know, it's a research station only. So you kind of have to
Right.
be, yeah. But maybe with the NSF involvement, we could do it. To me, it would be a really, I'd love to go up there and, you know, and
I'll go.
upgrade it. Yeah, Michael, please, you should go. I agree.
I'd
Yeah, I
love to go.
agree. Okay. Michael's ready to go with a whisper sound for the transmit site, and a AAA and B-Link or something even better for the receive site. And we.
There's a retirement project for you.
That's right.
Anyway,
I'll bring
yeah.
my Nordic skis along with me, and
you know, when you go there, you can only go there in the summer, really. And I don't think there's a lot of snow on the ground actually. It looks pretty barren even in the winter. I mean, it does get lots of snow. I think mostly it's windy, and even in the summer, pretty chilly. So it's but you'll have lots of work day, you know, sunlight hours to work in. So
lots of sunlight.
Uh-huh.
Fritjof Nansen was one of my heroes, so I just trek across the island in midwinter or something.
Okay. Well, you could make that as a proposal, but I don't think they fit into the scientific criteria for visiting. Anyway, what else is
Rob, if
I'm
you pardon
reminded
me,
in this
one other
conversation.
question about the B links.
Yes.
Most of them say for operating system OS, but the one that you linked has Windows 11 Pro.
Yeah.
Is that a difference?
No, I just installed Ubuntu 2204 LTS on it, and server version. Okay. Do not put in it. I mean, you can put the desktop in, but then you're subject to the vagaries of Ubuntu uploading and updating. But
so what do they mean by OS when they
I
just
don't
say OS?
I don't know. Let me
So
look
does
at
it
what you're
come
looking.
empty?
It comes
with Windows 11.
Yeah.
Comes with Windows 11.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
No matter what.
So if you, I initially tried, I used Ubuntu's ability to installation to select a dual boot. So if you select dual boot, you can, of course, select a boot time, whether you go into Windows or, and partition the hard disk. The problem with that is that if you, that the Windows bootloader hijacks the boot process, and in some way I didn't have time to determine, and makes
You can change that though. You can make the default be Ubuntu.
I did that. I did that.
Yeah.
It didn't stick. It didn't stick. I got out. I did that. I got out to Winnemucca in October. Powered the thing up. Wait a second. It's not there at all. I don't see it. It's not responding to pings.
Windows will go into BIOS and change the boot order without you choosing. The way around that is to issue a supervisor password to the BIOS, which Windows doesn't know.
Well, Tom, I wish I'd known that when I did my installation. So it sounds like you're better qualified to set it up for dual boot than certainly than I was, because I was only rescued by the fact that Gary came out and happened to have a monitor and keyboard, and I happened to have a UPS power supply. So we're out in the middle of the desert, and I fire up the UPS so I can power the monitor and plug it in and get into the BIOS, and then force it back into into Grub and booting into Ubuntu. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had any of the receive reports that we did from October.
The
And
way
we
to
wouldn't have.
run those is the you have to pay, you have to activate it and license it, don't you?
Yes, yeah, you have to activate Windows. I didn't even get that far. I just went in.
Sure of it, but I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, but I guess if you put a password on the BIOS, then you're safe. You can put it into dual boot, but of course it sacrifices. I don't know. You want to give Windows 100 gigs or something of the 500 gig root drive. That means you only have 400 gigs for your grape recordings. So I don't know. I haven't used Windows in 10 years, so so I don't.
I was also, I wondered those differences because I'm finding a lot of listings on Amazon for that same computer,
Yes.
same unit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I found one that's $329 with a $100 off coupon.
Well, you
So
can
I'm
try
wondering,
it, and it's as I
is it
say,
any different?
I don't know. I don't know.
A
I
lot
can't
of
tell you. I do know that the one other that I have does not have the two things that I wanted out of the BIOS was fan speed control. Now maybe it comes with the right fan speed. I don't know, but and always on boot mode. Those are the two things you really need for. I believe you need to be able to
Right.
configure, but you could buy the 100 I don't know, the $100 off one. I bought another one. It doesn't give me those one of those other vendors. It doesn't give me those options in the BIOS. So I know that B-Link does. We bought multiple B-Links. They all have that option in
Yeah.
them. They seem to be
Well,
fairly
these
consistent.
are all
So.
B-links, just different listings for that unit.
Oh, well, if
Interesting.
it's the same
You can
unit,
often get about 50 bucks off at Amazon. You'll save about 50 bucks if you buy it on Amazon.
well,
You can get it from the B-Link website and get 50 bucks off. You can get it from Amazon and get 100 bucks off.
Yeah.
The deals are generally better on Amazon.
There are lots and lots of variants too, depending on how much memory, how much, everything.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
these are.
You've got to read
I mean, I admit I'm just totally confused by this because the prices are different. The SKU numbers or whatever they call it are different, but the the hard drive, the memory, the processor all look like they're the same.
Well,
and letter on the end of the version, the chip number, there are H's and there are U's and they're quite different.
Yeah, we've seen different.
It was a lot easier when you were choosing between 8 megahertz and 16 megahertz 386s.
You do want to be sure you get 16 gigs of DRAM.
Right.
It's pretty hard to not get 500 gigs or more. 500 gigs is enough. I mean, that's a good week of grape stores
yeah, you can always add an external drive for storage. That's what we do on our units.
So that's not so important.
Nathaniel, can I check a quick question here?
Mm-hmm.
Have a conference call next week or not because of the conference in Cleveland?
I was planning on having a conference call next week.
Okay.
It was the day after the Cleveland. That was the one I was considering canceling.
Okay. In other words, Recovery Monday may be canceled.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
Very good.
I have a question for you, Nathaniel. Are you planning anything on Sunday?
No.
Any tours or anything?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing this
Yeah,
year.
I see.
I have a late flight out.
I see. Yeah, I see. Dave, I see that. Yeah, there's a different listing for probably the same unit. It's 239. That's what I paid for mine. Several of mine, and I may have missed.
I found one that with coupon it's 229.
Okay, well,
$10 here and there.
Again, the one I'm
just wanted to make sure it was just all the same unit.
I believe it is.
They all come from the B-Link store. It says.
Oh, okay. Well,
go figure.
Let's see what it's 219. I bought one of the Trig keys. That's the cheapest of the 5560 mini PCs, and that doesn't have the fan control in it, so I'd stay away from it.
Right. No, but I'm talking B-Link, just so you have all
Yeah.
manner of different prices for it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it is. Well, I think that that's interesting. Yeah, I think that the 239 seems to me to be the one that's the B-Link for 239 is probably the best deal you're going to get.
Yeah. All right.
Rob,
And you
while,
can if you can always return it. That's it.
Right. Good point.
Rob, while you're here, a couple questions on the agenda for the Hamside workshop.
Yeah.
So I have you down for the oral presentation, which is on Friday morning. I have you down for 9:10 a.m. Presentation called the Whisper Demon Grape Reporting Site. And I have
Yes.
both you and Paul Elliott are presenting there, or
Yes,
just you?
Paul is coming. Yeah, we're in fact flying together. We're flying
Great.
in. We're going to arrive. We changed our flights. We're coming in Thursday, very early on Thursday morning.
Great.
So we'll definitely be there and maybe wander over on Thursday to see if there's anybody around. Gwen is coming in Thursday evening. I
Okay.
know, talked to him this morning about that.
Great.
But yeah, I'm hoping. I think that John Ackerman is coming up in the afternoon, so I hope we can get together and do some talks and ahead of time. We have a number of projects. There's quite a bit going on actually, with the behind the scenes in terms
Right.
of new products that you may be aware of. So we want to talk about all of those with John in particular, because I think there could be a wider audience.
Dave,
that's
Dave
great.
Whitten and I are driving up. We're hoping to get there around supper time.
Good. Well, that's all. We can get together for supper then, for sure. You can. You can send me. Okay.
Yeah,
And
I think I arrive at 5:30 to the
Yeah.
airport,
Okay.
hoping to get dinner with you guys.
Yeah.
And then I also have you on down here in poster 17. I'm guessing it's not actually going to be a poster. You're just going to have stuff that you're going to set up on a table.
Yeah, I'm not even sure we're going to try to run it, but we'll show the physical things.
Okay.
I don't see the point of trying to do a whole
Yeah.
demo. It's I
Right.
mean, we can remotely log on to sites to show people interactive things, but we're definitely going to bring. That's one of the reasons I bought, and I'm not gonna chop this one up and put all kinds of thermal things on it. I'm just make it look nice. But that's my plan. So just to bring my little demo and not run anything. But that was actually the most productive part of it, was sitting out there and having people come by and
Yeah.
to talk with us afterwards. So
Great.
that's how we got the Whisper 2 spreading from Ryan. He came by the demo, and so he's not coming. I wish he were, but I guess what's happened with he mentioned his what's his Gareth he works with?
Yeah.
Gareth will be coming.
Well, I'm not sure. His mother's not doing well, so he told me he may be going up to Canada.
Okay.
So.
Well, what happened? You guys were, I thought he was
yeah.
proposing this Antarctic project. Is anything happening with that?
I'm not sure with that.
Yeah, he and Hyomin have something going.
Yeah. Hyomin will be there, and some of Gareth's and Hyomin's students will also be there.
Okay. Maybe we can rep one of them into doing the deconvolution project for their master's thesis.
That would be nice.
That would be, Franco did the Python to translate wave files into DRF.
Yeah.
So maybe we can find somebody else. all I can do. I have a bunch of new features for Whisper Demon that needs to go in. So
Yeah, we will definitely need to talk some more.
okay. Well, I'm around this week. I'm not
Okay.
busy in Maui, so I'll be here, and I'm going to collaborate with Paul about what we're going to present. But we've got a total of 20 minutes, right, to talk and take
Yes.
questions.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how much we can communicate, but
yeah,
we'll
be
put up
quick.
this. Here's your transmit site. Here's your receive site. You know, this is WWV. This is, I don't know, Haystack Observatory. You know, that's what you got, and that's basically that's the message.
Yeah.
And it's in a way, it's in a way, it's nice to. It would be nice to have Gwen first to show what you get out of this stuff, because what's the purpose? You know, my wife asked me this question: why are you doing all this? What do you know? What do you learn from all this? You know,
I
what
mean,
do you?
Yeah.
So you have an elevator story for that, Nathaniel? What is it? What are we learning from all this?
I tell people that we are learning more about how the upper atmosphere works.
Yeah. You know, did any of you read the article in the March 4th New Yorker magazine about space weather?
I saw it come through, but I didn't have a chance to read it.
I mean, it's
Yeah, I
a
saw it.
apocalypse now writing. It's like if there's the article says there are two catastrophic events that could befall human civilization. One of them is a pandemic. You know, we've had a minor one in the last few years, and the other one is a true solar storm. And we kind of know how to deal with pandemics, you know, not very well, especially here in the United States, but we do know how to deal with them. We have not begun to understand. We have not begun to understand how to. We don't even know what the next Carrington event is going to be, when it's going to be, or what its effects will be upon our electronically based civilization. But
what I thought interesting is they left out the asteroid.
oh yes. Well, that's but the asteroid is once in a, you know, the catastrophic asteroid happens every, 100 million years. These solar things apparently look, now that they've learned about them,
There's
occur.
a good chance we'll get one in this cycle.
What, an asteroid?
No, the Carrington event.
Carrington event.
A large storm.
I don't think there's been a Carrington event since 1830, whatever it was.
No,
30s.
there have been several.
There have been several, but they're order of magnitude less intense than
No, there
Carrington.
have been some that they think actually were pretty comparable.
Really? Okay. Well,
they
then
just didn't get as much attention.
Well, I'll send out
1929. I think there was one.
Yeah. Well,
we've had some fairly strong ones recently, but yeah, the thing is that we have all this new technology that it could hit.
Yeah. Well, I will send I was able to copy the text of the article, and I forwarded it to some of my friends, but not to this group.
I'll give you a clue. The New Yorker times out their free articles, but if you go into your cookies and wipe them out, you can read for free again.
Well, I think I somehow copied this into a largely text format, and so it's really embedded in the email itself. It's not a link to anything. So it was anyway. It was interesting to me, and I was interested to see if those of you who know more about space weather like you do, David, that's
why I keep tube equipment around.
Invest in aluminum garbage cans to throw your equipment in.
Right.
Well, I'm not sure. I think it might happen before. I think that the electromagnetic pulse, unlike the particle storm, electromagnetic pulse will happen before we, as we observe it. I don't think that was my understanding, but maybe Anyway, it was interesting, and it gave me a hook to talk to my neighbor on the airplane seat, to give her some something more to worry about.
Wow.
Well, you're flying in a Faraday cage, so at least you're safe up there.
Yeah, yes, we'd be safe up there, but not in many other places. So
Unless
anyway,
it's a carbon fiber 787 or whatever that is.
I wasn't. Okay, well, let's see what other topics we have. I think it's getting late for you guys on the East Coast, so maybe
Yes,
we-
I'm starting to fade a little.
yeah.
So
Okay. Well,
thank you
anyway,
very much.
yeah. Just if you get a
thanks for the
V-Link
insight.
yeah, if you get a V-Link, install Ubuntu 2204 server, desnap it. Okay, take all the snaps part. Clint has an article on how to do that in his blog pages, and you'll have a stable operating system, a high performance operating system.
Yeah, the reason for that you didn't mention, Rob, some of those snap updates can screw up your TCP stack, right? Isn't that what the
Apparently,
issue is?
I lost the access to the Ethernet port on my B-Link up at KPH. I
Yeah.
still don't have it. My access, I had to plug in a USB Ethernet dongle in order to get
Yeah.
wired internet connection back.
Well, somebody's got to teach these OS guys. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah,
something.
good luck with that.
Yeah.
Trouble is, it's always broke somewhere.
Well, so yeah, so I wanted to do a complete OS reinstall, but I didn't have time in my last KPH visit. It was all I could do to get in a wired connection in. So
Very good.
okay, guys, nice
night,
to talk
guys.
to you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Take
7-3.
care. Yeah.